Joining me now to figure it all out is former Chief Immigration Officer for the UK Border Force at Calais, Kevin Saunders. Kevin, very good evening to you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mike.
Now, we sort of touched upon this story last night when it came out. It looked as though the European Union has managed to find some way through the whole business of the ECHR and deportation and all the rest of it. But it looks good on paper, but I'm not sure how it's going to work. They say they're going to set up some processing centres, which they're going to build, apparently, and they're going to make it clear that no more than 12 weeks will be the time they take to process people, and then they'll just take them back to where they came from. But all they know, presumably, is they came from Libya, but they might not have come from Libya.
Yes, I mean, I've actually got the document that you're talking about in front of me, and I've read it 4 or 5 times, and it's a usual sort of political document because there are ifs and buts in there.
Yeah.
But fundamentally speaking, they're kicking Dublin into touch and coming out with a new, I don't know what you would call it,
protocol.
A new rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I say, Dublin goes out of touch, and what they're saying is that an asylum seeker now has to claim asylum in the first EU country that they come to.
Right.
But there is a limit on the number of people that each EU country can actually take. Now, at the moment, that's 30,000. Well, under the new legislation, that's going to be set at 30,000. But each country has to create its own figure after that. Well, we know that Hungary, I think, has taken single figures. So that one's going to be a bit difficult to enforce. I think the big thing is that they're saying that an asylum seeker that comes through a safe country will automatically be excluded for claiming asylum in the EU.
Right.
And that's a really important one.
Right.
And that's something that we could, if we could get involved in that somehow, we could send them all back to France.
Yes. So are they saying that 30,000 is the minimum that every EU country must take, and then they can opt to take more if they wish?
Well, what they've done is they've set a limit. They've had to set a limit in the document.
Right.
And the document limit is set at 30,000. But it is up to each EU country to come up with its own figure. So, I mean, some will take more, others will take less. I mean, I can't see places like Malta being able to take 30,000 people. Right. Or Cyprus. They just wouldn't be able to do it. But there is a requirement for each EU country to set a figure. It looks like that they're going to get money from the EU. It could be as much as 600 million euro to do this. Right. So it's a very interesting document, but I think there are 1 or 2 holes in it.
Yes. Well, let me go back to what I said at the beginning, which is that if they, for example, decide that they're going to deport, I don't know, 100,000 people, because let's face it, I know there were sometimes 8,000 people a day coming into Lampedusa on the southern fringes of the Italian borders, right? Those little islands near Sicily. If you've got something like, I don't know, 40,000 a week coming, and you're only keeping 30,000, that means you're deporting an awful lot of people sort of on a constant basis, aren't you? And in the end, if you just take them all back to northern Africa or Libya, where do they go then?
Well, this is the hole that I can see, because it says that anybody that arrives in a non-regulatory manner is unable to claim asylum. This is exactly what we've done. We've said that anybody that comes over in a boat and arrives here illegally isn't able to claim asylum. Right. And the Europeans just copied us on this. But they could. Now, you've got to remember that Italy has got a deal with Libya. Now, I know Italy have. I'm not sure whether the EU have, but certainly Italy has, for sending people back. The Libyans get paid a lot of money for taking people back. So I think that you'll probably see more money going towards Libya and more people being taken back there.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's just that you have to keep paying people. It's like a sort of blackmail scenario, isn't it? If you don't pay the countries where they're coming from, they'll keep coming. If you do pay the countries where they're coming from, they'll keep coming. And if you don't stop the people traffickers who are making more money than everybody, they'll keep coming. I don't really see a way of stopping it.
Well, you're right. What the Europeans are also saying is, if I'm reading this document correctly, is that anybody that is arriving into Europe is going straight into detention. And I think that's why the figure that you mentioned at the beginning, about 12 weeks, is what this is based on. They can detain them for 12 weeks in detention centres and get it all sorted out within that period.
Right.
But it seems to me to be quite contrary to the ECHR, but from what I can see in the document, they're not worried about that.
Right. And so will it have a knock-on effect to those who come to this country? Because effectively, as you say, we might then be able to send them back to France. How does that work?
Well, we would have to have some deal with the EU, and we're not going to get a deal with the EU. The French won't take people back. It's not. They say it's not in their national interest.
Yes.
To take them back, and they're right. Macron would be slaughtered if he took 29,000 illegal migrants that have come over this year back into northern France. He wouldn't get elected ever. So
yes.
that isn't going to happen. He'll never agree to that. What we've got to do is we've got to make the UK totally and absolutely unpleasant. I don't like the word unpleasant, but that's what it is to people coming across the channel.
Yeah.
You've got to say to them, you're not going to be able to work. You're not going to be able to get benefits. You're not going to be able to get this. You're not going to be able to get that if you enter illegally.
Yes.
And Rwanda, despite what your previous guests were saying, Rwanda will work. The Rwanda deterrent is important.
Yeah.
And what we're not seeing is that if Rwanda does work, you'll find other African countries who have already quietly inquired if they could come into the scheme as well.
Yeah.
Because they want the money.
Right. Yeah, because it's very lucrative business. What about this other rule that the Home Office has kind of rode a little bit back on, I understand? One of the plans to reduce sort of legal migration was to bring foreign spouses to the UK only if they were actually going to be making 38,700 quid. That's not going to happen now. They're going to keep it at 29,000?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're putting it up, but they're only putting it up to 29,000.
Right.
But there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think is probably the word to use, about people coming to the UK on visas.
Yeah.
If a visa is issued for X number of years, 3 years, 5 years, and everybody knows that, you apply for a visa, you're going to get it for 3 years.
Right.
You know, at the end of those 3 years, you have no right to stay. You have to reapply. So if you go ahead and get married or whatever, you're effectively laying yourself open for a whole load of trouble if your visa is not renewed, because it's quite simple. You were never guaranteed to be here forever.
Yes.
You are only here
No, I
for
get
the
that.
length
But
of
we
your
were
visa.
also told, Kevin, were we not this year by the Home Office figures, that one of the reasons why it was such a high number in terms of the net migration figure, officially 750,000, was that more and more people are staying longer than their visa, whether it's a student visa or a work visa, suggested they would.
Yes, that is very true. And the Home Office did let on that 17,000 people had got lost. And I was surprised it was only 17,000. The trouble is we don't have enough enforcement officers. We need more and more enforcement officers to go after the people that we have mislaid.
Yes. Maybe we could hire the people that
visas.
we've mislaid to be enforcement officers. Maybe that would work.
Well, yeah, there you go. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
It would.
But we need, seriously, we need our enforcement officers. And you see, sometimes our enforcement officers will go round to, let's say, a restaurant of some sort, and find people that we've lost there, that we have no detention space. So we tell them that we're arresting them for being in the UK illegally, but we can't put them into detention because we've got no detention space.
Right.
So we have to bail them. And as soon as you bail them, they disappear again.
Yeah, it's a terrible system, and I'm just very pessimistic about whether it'll ever be fixed. But Kevin, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.